So this is part 2 of video for lesson 1.9. We got cut off on the other one, so we're going to continue right where we left off. We were talking about using graphs to display data, and remember, when you make a graph, you need to make sure you label your x-axis, which is the one down here on the bottom. It's your horizontal axis, right here, okay? And your y-axis, which is your vertical axis, okay? So here my label is Megan's laps for my x, and Will's laps is y. And remember, they told us that by looking right up here at this ordered pair. This is the ordered pair that corresponds to Megan arriving at the track is blank 6. So that 6 is representing Will, who already ran the 6 laps when Megan shows up and hasn't ran any. Okay, and then also remember, every time you make a graph for a word problem, you should always talk about the title. And that title should include information that's not included in your x and y axis labels. Okay, so that's why it's laps ran on the track. Okay, so that first order pair that they give us when she arrives at the track is 0, 6. Now if we look at our y-axis and our x-axis, you'll notice that it's not labeling every single row, okay, every single mark on that number line. So we just have to fill those in. You don't actually have to fill that in, but I'm going to help you to show you. So this is 2, then we have 4, 6, 8, this would be 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and then the 20. Same thing on that vertical one. It's going to start at the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, whoops, sorry, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So whenever you're making a graph, you don't have to number every line. Just remember that your scale has to be even. So they skipped every other line and counted by 4s on both those axes. The two axes won't have to be the same, but the gaps on each axis do have to be the same, right? So the next thing it tells us is to use the table from exercise 7 to write 3 or more ordered pairs. And it wants us to use the one where Megan ran 2 laps, which we can tell right here, where the first thing is 2, and the one where Will has ran 10 laps. So we look, and then we get to pick a third one. So if we look back at this table that we did, this one is where Megan ran 2. Here we have where Will ran 10, and I'm going to pick the 6, 12 for the last one. So it's 2 and 8, 4 and 10, 6 and 12. So 2 and 8, 4 and 10, and 6 and 12. Okay. So what we have now is we have 3 ordered pairs, but 4 really with that original point that we can graph. Okay, so the first one we can graph is 0, 6. So to graph a 0, 6, I start at 0, and since there's nothing first, I'm just going to go up to 6 and put a dot. Okay, for 2, 8, okay, they're telling me to go over to 2 and then up to 8. When you graph an ordered pair, it's always over and then up. Okay, over to 4 and up to 10. And then I picked over to 6 and up to 12. Okay, what that does is it shows me the trend, the pattern of my data, so I can draw a line going through those dots that shows where the trend would continue. So I can see if I were to go to 10 for Megan, right here, that Will would have ran 16. Okay, it shows that trend, which makes sense because he ran 6 before she got there. Okay, and that's using a graph to represent data. Okay. The last part of this lesson is about patterns. Okay. And what patterns do, okay, is they help us recognize relationships. Okay, so it says use the figure below. Make a table showing the number of black tiles to the total number of tiles in each figure. How many tiles will be in 24 black tiles? Okay. So if I look at this first figure, okay, number 1. Tile number 1. Okay, there are 4 black tiles, but there's a total of 9 tiles. Okay, if I look at the second set, this huge set right here, there is 8 black tiles. Okay, and overall there's 3 in each row. Okay, or 6 in each row if you do both of them at one time. There's 18 total tiles, 18 total squares in there. And if I look at the third one, right, if you count all those black squares, you end up with 12 black squares. And if you count every single square, you end up with 27 total. Okay? So it asks us to figure out how many tiles will be in a figure with 24 black ones. Okay? So it gives us some questions to try to help us. It says for each new figure, how does the total number of tiles change as the number of black tiles is increased by 4? So if I look at this table, what's happening for these black ones is every time it's going up by 4. So they're asking me to figure out what's going on over here in the number of total tiles. If I look, 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 plus 9 is 27. So what's happening over there is it's increasing by 9. And the letter D right there. So to figure out what they would have for 24 black tiles, okay, what I have to do is figure out that relationship, okay? Well, if there's 24 black tiles, okay, let's figure out how many total blocks there are. There's 4 black tiles in each block, correct? So if I take that 24 and I divide it by 4, it tells me that there's 6 blocks overall. Move this up a little bit so we have some space here. That there's 6 blocks overall. Okay, and if I look at those previous blocks again, okay, we know that each block has 9 squares. Okay, so if I go up here and I have 6 blocks, each of them has 9. So if I take that 6 times 9, I get a total of 54 tiles. Okay, so there's every 4 black tiles, there is 9 total tiles, which is what kind of information I just used down here at the bottom to figure out that question. So this one says, make a table showing the number of light gray tiles to the number of white tiles in each figure. And then it asks how many white tiles will be in a figure with 24 light gray tiles, okay? So we again have those 3 different blocks. Make it a little bigger while we're working on the table, okay? And so I have, this is figure number 1, figure number 2, and figure number 3 again, okay? In figure number 1, I have 1 light gray tile right there in the center, okay? Right there is the one we're talking about. And on the sides of that, I have 2 white tiles. In the second figure, I have 2 gray tiles, one in the middle of each of the squares, okay? And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 white tiles. In the third one, 1, 2, 3 light gray, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white tiles, okay? So using that table, I can try to figure out a relationship of how those are related to each other. Okay, so it says, circle the correct description of the relationship between the number of light gray tiles and white tiles. Okay, or the number of the figure and the light gray tiles. So they're asking me to look at these first 2 columns. Okay, and what you should notice is that they're the same. In the first figure, I have 1 gray. Second figure, I have 2 gray. Third figure, I have 3 gray. Number 20 says, circle the correct description of the relationship between the number of light gray tiles and the number of white tiles. So now they're asking me to look at these 2. So what are we doing to the number of light gray tiles to get to the number of white? So if I think about that, from 1 to 2, I can add 1. Okay? But if I keep that same pattern, 2 plus 1 is only 3, so that can't be it. Okay? So what else can I do to 1 to get to 2? Is I can multiply by 2. And if I check that for the next one, 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 2 is 6. So the relationship, they're not the same. Okay? If I look at the middle option, the number of white tiles is double the number of light gray tiles. That's what times 2 means, is that it's doubled. Okay, so we figured out that relationship. So what I can use that for, it says to figure out, or a figure with 24 light gray tiles will have how many white tiles? Well, if I look at that pattern, if I just take that 24 times 2, I get an answer of 48 white tiles. Okay, so what you're going to be doing on your homework today is looking at tables, equations, and graphs. Okay, and using those tables to figure out a relationship to make your graph and to find patterns to help you figure out how to solve a problem using an expression or an equation. And that's lesson 1.9.